This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
If we didn't get involved, Los Angeles would be on fire.
Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head.
They did an illegal act by kidnapping us.
I have to honor the Lord because I'm using the creative gifts that He gave me.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Enough or too much in Los Angeles? Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. That's a key question when it comes to dealing with often violent anti-ICE protests in L.A., which have now raged for several nights. President Trump says he'd seen more than enough to warrant dispatching the National Guard and U.S. Marines there.
If we didn't get involved, Los Angeles right now would be on fire, and we have it in great shape. I'm not playing around.
But California Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters says images of violent acts by protesters don't tell the true story of those L.A. protests.
Those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head.
Responding, House Speaker Mike Johnson.
I don't even know how to comment on Maxine Waters anymore. It's madness. I'm going to be charitable and leave it right there.
Video has shown protesters being handed riot shields and gas masks from the back of a truck, along with pallets of cinder blocks being deployed. California's Governor Gavin Newsom today filing an emergency motion to block that deployment. The L.A. protests were a hot topic on Capitol Hill this morning as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth faced lawmakers, including Minnesota Democratic Rep. Betty McCollum.
Governor Walz made the decision to call up the Minnesota National Guard, but this looks nothing like the George Floyd protests or the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles in 1992. Mr. Secretary, this is a deeply unfair position to put our Marines in.
Responded Hegseth.
I recall 2020 quite well when Governor Walz abandoned a police precinct and allowed it to be burned to the ground. A situation like that, improperly handled by a governor, if it gets out of control, is a bad situation for the citizens of any location.
Other cities are expected to see anti-ICE protests as soon as tonight. President Trump is warning those protesters they'll be met with, quote, equal or greater force than that seen so far in L.A. California has been a challenging state also when it comes to Christian rights. Case in point, Christian baker Kathy Miller, who's been battling California officials for years after declining to bake a cake for a so-called same-sex marriage. Miller's being represented by attorney Adele Keem, who tells CBN.
She ran into these conflicts, so she created what she calls the design standards. And she says, I want to make you something beautiful and delicious, but I will not do gory Halloween treats. I will not put Jack Daniels on your bachelor party cake or do adult-themed bachelorette party cakes. I have to honor the Lord because I'm using the creative gifts that He gave me.
Despite being rebuffed on more than one occasion by the U.S. Supreme Court in such cases, Miller is currently appealing to the High Court after California's highest court refused to hear her appeal of a lower court ruling there that went against her. Activist Greta Thunberg and many others whose ship was intercepted by Israeli authorities as it sailed toward Gaza are headed back home reluctantly.
They did an illegal act by kidnapping us on international waters and against our rules.
Israeli officials dubbed that ship, which carried less than a truckload of aid, the Selfie Yacht. The trip was meant to protest Israeli restrictions on aid to Gaza. On Monday, President Trump called Thunberg, quote, a young, angry person, recommending she take anger management classes, to which Thunberg responded, again quoting here, I think the world needs a lot more young, angry women. The U.S. and China continuing their efforts to avoid an all-out trade war. Top officials from both countries in London for a second day of trade talks. The two sides agreed on an initial trade pact in Geneva last month. At least 9 people dead after a school shooting in Austria.
The attacker's connection to the school has not been confirmed, but one Austrian newspaper reports the suspect was a 22-year-old former student who carried a pistol and a shotgun.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. All current members of the CDC Vaccine Advisory Committee are being removed by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who made that announcement yesterday, saying the 17-member group is plagued with conflicts of interest. Dr. Celine Gounder reacting on CBS.
firing the ACIP members en masse undermines continuity and scientific oversight of the process.
The committee members advised the CDC on the vaccine schedule and required coverage of immunizations. Toyota's Prius and BZ, Hyundai's Elantra and Sonata, Kia's K4 and Nissan's Murano. They lead the annual Top Safety Pick Plus list put out by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety.
That means they are performing really well in our crash tests, headlight evaluation, our crash prevention systems.
That's Institute Vice President Raul Arboli. Will it be too smart for our own good? Social media giant Meta is sinking big bucks into a new research lab to pursue what's being called super intelligence.
Right now, tech giants are still trying to perfect artificial general intelligence, an AI that can do anything the human brain can do. Super intelligence would be an AI system that exceeds the powers of the human brain. Meta is shelling out billions of dollars to lure top AI researchers away from other AI giants, including the founder and CEO of the AI startup Scale AI, Alexander Wang.
That's CBS's Michael Wallace. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report. A tornado touchdown in the southern tier. New York moves a step closer to legalizing physician-assisted suicide and dealing with the challenging issue of spiritual warfare.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. For tonight, there'll be a spot shower or a thunderstorm early across parts of central New York and eastern Pennsylvania. Otherwise, the moon will be out tonight. That's the full strawberry moon. Low temperatures 50s, fog and some valleys late. For tomorrow, sunshine, mixed clouds, warm, breezy. High temperatures nearing 80. On Thursday, some sunshine. For the end of the day, a couple of showers in western New York and northwest Pennsylvania, though. High temperatures Thursday in the 70s and lower 80s.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Now checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. It was Tornado Tuesday in parts of the listening area. Several tornado warnings issued as a strong front raced across the area. A reported tornado touched down in Cattaraugus County, New York last night, causing significant damage, leaving some residents stunned. The town of Great Valley near Ellicottville took a direct hit. Emergency responder Chris Baker says despite all the damage,
we have not had any injuries. We did have a FedEx employee that was making a delivery that was trapped at the intersection that was in the heart of the storm as it hit and picked the van up and threw it in the ravine, but fortunately she was unhurt.
About 20 utility poles snapped out of the ground, a barn destroyed, some widespread debris there as well. The Cat County Office of Emergency Services is asking people to document storm damage and submit it. And those weren't the only weather woes. Flash flooding washed out several roads in Steuben County. The towns of Canisteo and Bath were particularly hard hit. Floodwaters forced school cancellations in Bath and Hammondsport. Not the result many were hoping for. As expected, the Democrat-controlled New York State Senate last night passed a bill that would legalize physician-assisted suicide. If signed by Governor Hochul, New York would become the 12th state to allow the terminally ill to kill themselves with the help of a doctor. Senate Minority Leader Rob Ortt.
We're passing aid in dying, assisted suicide. That's the priority. With all the issues facing New Yorkers, I can tell you no one called my office over the last several months and said, you know what we need? We need this bill.
Governor Hochul hasn't yet given a clear indication of whether or not she'll sign that bill into law. More officers are soon going to be on duty at Ontario Beach Park following another weekend of violence. On Saturday, a group of teens gathered in the park, broke off into groups, and started fighting. Folks living near that park say they don't feel safe and are trying to avoid going there during evening hours now. A scare in Pottsville, Pennsylvania this morning. Barricades blocked roads near the Schuylkill County Courthouse after a suspicious package was found outside. County Commissioner Larry Pedora tells WNEP.
There was an evacuation order given at 10:53 of all courthouse properties, and hence all the people are outside of the courthouse. The bomb squad was called in. There was no bomb threat called into the county that we know of. It was a passerby saw the item and reported it to somebody.
Thankfully, it turned out to be a false alarm. Things now back to normal in Pottsville, PA. Things could be changing for Pennsylvania's SNAP recipients. We get more on that story from Family Life's Brian Query.
On Monday, the Pennsylvania State House passed a bipartisan bill that would require a report on transitioning to chip-enabled electronic benefits transfer cards, or EBT. Proposed by State Representatives Dan Williams and Doyle Heffley, the transition to chip-enabled cards would increase security for card users amid EBT card skimming incidents. According to Representative Williams, since October of 2022, Pennsylvania has recorded more than 23,000 cases of EBT theft. Brian Query, Family Life News.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. Up next, here's part of my conversation about spiritual warfare with Countersport, Pennsylvania author Ron Brisby. He's published a Bible study about that called Fighting Blind. When you talk about spiritual warfare, I think maybe to the average Christian, they might acknowledge, certain passages in the Bible that talk about that. Ephesians 6:10-12 certainly comes to mind about battles that we can't see. But I think a lot of people don't go beyond that. They're like, yeah, okay, I guess that's happening, but they don't really go any further than that.
Exactly. You hear so many people that will say spirit warfare this and spirit warfare that, but after you talk to them for a few minutes, you realize that they really don't have a true biblical perspective on spirit warfare, and that we're right in the middle of it constantly all the time. And God allows the devil to attack us, and he limits the devil's abilities to completely overwhelm us. He says that he will not suffer us to be tempted above that we are able. But God never said, I will not put you in a situation that you cannot handle. People really struggle with that. There is a clear perspective given in God's word of the reality in which we live. And so many people just lack that perspective, even though they are fully aware that there is a spirit warfare going on.
We're caught in the middle of this conflict that goes all the way back to the fall of Lucifer. And each side, we're kind of the objective for both good and evil.
That's right. They have an agenda. We are definitely caught in the middle. Satan uses us to defy God. He hates believers, and God uses us to defy Satan. There's a point where God put us here on earth for a specific reason, and it is to glorify him, and he allows Satan to attack us. I believe firmly that we are here to actually defy Satan, honor God, and to teach Satan a lesson that, hey, people that I've created that are physically limited with five senses, can't see you, can't hear you, they know you're there, and they're going to deny you and come to me. It's a miracle in itself that God speaks through us by spirit, and we have to respond to him through our spirit rather than our physical being.
People seem a lot more inclined to believe in angels, but demons maybe not so much.
I agree. People seem to realize that there is a spirit warfare, but somehow in their mind they think that it's way far away. It's not right immediately in their vicinity, that it's somehow way away from them and it doesn't really affect them, when the truth of the matter is it's constantly affecting the human being, whether you're saved or unsaved.
That's author Ron Brisby of Countersport, PA. His book is entitled Fighting Blind, a basic study of spirit warfare. You can listen to the entire conversation at Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, and of course at familylife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
A recent survey showed that money is a significant source of stress for most of us. Hi, I'm Rob West with the Faith and Finance Minute. The survey from the American Psychological Association also revealed that an increasing number of Americans are getting stressed out about money. So, how can you reduce money-related stress? Christian financial author Art Rainer suggests three things. First, pray for God's peace. Second, reset some of your expectations. That is, rethink what's really important and what's not in your spending. And third, get a plan. A financial plan will provide a sense of control even during financially tight times. Life will never be stress-free, but through prayer, setting priorities, and planning, you can ease a lot of the stress you may be facing. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the Faith Fi community. Download Faith Fi, Faith and Finance in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, a new twist on an old tale.
Someone has been sleeping in my bed, roared Father Bear.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. Obviously, we've had quite the wet spring. We get a little break over the next 36 hours or so with mainly rain-free weather under friendly high pressure. Later in the week, though, another front will arrive. Showers will become more numerous then. So the call for tonight, there'll be a spot shower or a thunderstorm early across parts of central New York and eastern Pennsylvania. Spotty. Otherwise, the moon will be out tonight. That's the full strawberry moon. Low temperatures 50s, fog and some valleys late. For tomorrow, sunshine, mixed clouds, warm, breezy. High temperatures nearing 80. On Thursday, some sunshine. Toward the end of the day, a couple of showers in western New York and northwest Pennsylvania, though. High temperatures Thursday in the 70s and lower 80s.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Finally, at 5, it was Goldilocks in reverse at the St. Andrews Village Retirement Community in Indiana County, Pennsylvania last week when a black bear broke into the facility and started roaming around. CNA Charlotte Elliott tells WPXI how it all started.
I was sitting there at our nurse's station and I heard a big crash. So I thought it was one of the aides that fell, and I got up and I seen it was a bear coming down the hall towards me.
Oh boy, what to do?
Going through my mind was get the thing out of here.
She alerted staff to shut doors to rooms, but the bear got into one and then climbed into bed with a resident.
Please do not move, touch him, because he would have mauled him. I mean, he could have just one swipe.
Another resident suggested feeding the bear.
She's like, well, go ahead and give it my sandwich. And I'm like, no, we can't do that.
However, they did use Rice Krispie treats to lure the bear back outside. Wildlife officers later managed to trap the bear, which was released deeper into the woods, hopefully to not return to St. Andrews again anytime soon. And that's the world we live in for Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.